Now let's take an example here. Taking the same sequence that we talked about earlier. If I had to draw the line here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. Say for instance, the question says, determine the 10th term. Determine the 10th term of the sequence. Now, if they say to us, determine the 10th term of the sequence, we go straight to the general term. We write down the general term, which is equal to A plus n minus 1 D. Now, because they want us to find the 10th term, it means in the place of n, we write 10. So we will therefore have here T10, which is equal to, now remember, I said the first term can be denoted by A, which means this A that you see here is in the place of the first term. So in other words, in the place of A, we will write 1, and then plus, because they talked about the 10th term, it means our n as represented here already will be 10. So we are going to have 10 minus 1. From there we look for a common difference. 3 minus 1 is 2, 5 minus 3 is 2, 7 minus 5 is 2, which means the common difference is 2. And we will write our 2 here inside the bracket, and we have 1 plus 10 minus 1 is 9, and then multiplied by 2, this is 1, plus 9 multiplied by 2 will give us 18, which means term number 10 will therefore be equal to 19. That is how we find the 10th term. But they could have asked this in another way. They could have said, find the general term, like they did with number patterns in grade 10. Find the general term. Find the general term. Now, with the same sequence, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. Remember, the general term that we use for arithmetic sequences is Tn equals A plus, in brackets, n minus 1 D. Tn, because we do not know for sure how many terms we are talking about, we are going to write this as Tn. Then we say Tn here will be equal to, the first term is 1, plus, we do not know the number of terms, so we write it as n minus 1, and our common difference, we already found it to be 2. So which means this here will be equal to 1 plus 2 multiplied by n will give us 2n, and 2 multiplied by negative 1 will give us negative 2, and therefore the general term will be equal to, starting with 2n, we'll have 2n minus 1, because 1 minus 2 here will give us negative 1. That is the long and short of introducing these arithmetic sequences. Now, we also are going to be looking at geometric sequences. Geometric sequences and series. I want us to try and get the differences right. Remember, with arithmetic sequences, we talked about the common difference. Remember, in maths, when we add, we talk about the sum, and when we subtract, we talk about the differences. That is why we say D here is a common difference, because 3 minus 1 give us 2. 5 minus 3 give us 2. So that is what we call a common difference. Now, with geometric sequences, let us look at this number pattern or sequence. If you are given, for instance, 1, 2, 4, 8, and they say to you, write down the next 2 terms. Let us look at this. You are going to start first by checking if this sequence is arithmetic or geometric, but you'll get to know what geometric is right now. When you look at this, 2 minus 1 give us 1, and then 4 minus 2 give us 2. So the differences already are not the same. But if you look at it in this way, you say 2, if you say for instance 2 divided by 1, it gives us 2. And when you say again 4 divided by 2, it also gives us 2. And again 8 divided by 4 gives us 2. Which means from this little exercise, we can see that term number 2 divided by term number 1 will actually give be the same as term number 3 divided by term number 2, which will be the same as term number 4 divided by term number 3, because it gives us the same answer. And this same answer is what we call the common ratio. So look at the sequence again. When we have to move from the first term, we are saying if you are given the first term and the common ratio, given the first term and the common ratio, it is possible for you to find other terms of the sequence. Let us look at with this one for example. If the first term A is equal to 1 and the common ratio which we use R for is equal to 2, it means now if you write down the first term, to get the second term, you will multiply the first term by the common ratio. So which means we will say 2 multiplied by 1, and that will give us 2. To get the third term of the sequence here, we will simply say 2 multiplied by 2, and that will give us 4. Again, we say 2 multiplied by 4, it will give us 8. Going back to that question here, because they said write down the next 2 terms of the given sequence, it means we are going to multiply this 8 here by 2, and that will give us 16. That will be the first term. And we multiply this 16 also by 2, and it will give us 32. And 16 and 32 will be the next 2 terms of this series here.